This is CBC Compass.
This is Tuesday, February 25th. Here's what's happening now on Prince Edward Island. A prescription for rural health care. The province is finally rolling out some details on how it plans to improve health care services in rural communities, and it starts with rural islanders. Electrifying plans for PEI buses in his State of the Province address. Premier Dennis King committed to full electrification for all school buses on the island over the next few years. And parts of UPEI are under a boil water order tonight. It is a precautionary measure taken after a water main break early yesterday morning, the latest ahead. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on Compass. I'm Louise Martin. There are new details tonight about how the province plans to improve health services in rural communities and how quickly it might be done. For months, government's been talking about creating something called rural health hubs. Well, Steve Bruce has more tonight on the plan and the timeline around it.
Well, Louise, what government has put out there to date on this has really been just a big, rather vague idea to open up all these one-stop shops in rural communities where people can access various health services, possibly other government services as well. But now the province says it's ready to get moving on this, and it's all going to start with gathering public feedback.
Listen to Islanders.
The health minister says next month there will be surveys available for islanders to fill out that'll ask about where they live, what their health needs are, and just how well those needs are being met in their area.
If you look at Old Erie, there might be a need there versus something that's completely different in Surrey. So again, we can't carbon copy and take one idea and make it work for all communities. We need to understand first and foremost what is available out there currently and what are the needs of the communities.
The minister says only when those results are in hand can government really start planning for these healthcare hubs, figuring out just where to put them, how many they'll need, what services will be offered in each one, and how much new construction will need to take place.
I'd love to see this happen tomorrow, but we want to make sure first and foremost that it's done right and it's done thoroughly.
All that said, James Aylward is hopeful that at least some rural hubs will be open by the end of this year.
I'm firmly convinced.
Though Alan McPhee, the chair of a rural healthcare lobby group, says government's plan hardly has him excited. He questions just how the province plans to improve healthcare in rural areas without more doctors.
I think they're playing with the dials, but there's no gas in the engine. The problem is there's not enough doctors, and we're not training enough doctors in Canada. And they can create all the bureaucratic circles that they like, but unless we have enough doctors, we're not going to have access to health care.
Now, for government's part, the health minister says it's really too early to say just how many more doctors and nurses they will need to work in these rural hubs, or how they're going to find them and how much this is all going to cost. Louise, what the health minister did say today and what the premier said last night in his State of the Province address is the government will spend more money as it's needed to improve health care right across the island.
Thank you, Steve. That is Steve Bruce reporting tonight. The Premier is promising to convert the entire fleet of island school buses to electric ones. That's roughly 300 buses. And he also made that announcement last night as part of his State of the Province address. He says climate change is one of the most pressing issues facing Prince Edward Island. Kerry Campbell has more.
PEI's Premier has mentioned this idea before, but in a more general, aspirational way. Now he's getting into specifics with a commitment for the complete electrification of PEI's school bus fleet, as he put it, over the next few years, and having those electric school buses perform double duty, operating as public transit for communities in PEI that are currently without.
So essentially what you would see when this is all said and done, if you lived in Murray River or Murray Harbour, perhaps it would require the school bus drivers being hired full-time, and when they're not taking students to and from school, that maybe through the middle of the day they could take individuals to appointments in Montague.
One hurdle which King says has now been overcome, finding a way for PEI to qualify for federal infrastructure funding for the new buses. The Green Party says it likes the idea, but would like to see the actual plan for implementation.
The technology's ready, yes. I mean, it's been rolling out in other jurisdictions across North America. I believe Montreal has many electric buses in their public transit fleet.
2 years ago, T3 Transit test drove an electric bus for a day, but last year the city of Charlottetown decided electric buses were too expensive, opting to buy more diesel transit buses. In this year's capital budget, the province committed to buying 30 new gas-powered school buses and 1 electric school bus on a pilot project basis. But even buying 30 electric buses a year, it would take a decade to convert over PEI's entire school bus fleet. The Premier says he believes a lot of the conversion can be done during the mandate of the current government. He said more details will be provided in the coming weeks. Kerry Campbell, CBC News, Charlottetown.
The PEI government is advising the public that it found malware on its network, and steps are being taken to ensure Islanders' personal information is protected. Now, this malware was discovered on Sunday. We just received a press release about it about half an hour ago. Officials say they are investigating, but at this point, they have no reason to believe any personal information has been affected at this time. The province says government services continue to run uninterrupted, although Islanders could experience slower than usual service times. All right, time for our first look at the weather, and Jay's here with details on a special weather statement Environment Canada has issued, and this is for Thursday into Friday morning, right, Jay?
Yeah, still a couple of days out, and a reminder that after a nice mild stretch of weather, we are still into winter, and spring is debatably largely just a lighter version of winter here on PEI anyway. But the last few days have been nice. We do have that special weather statement in effect across all 3 counties, all 3 maritime provinces as well. And that mess will begin likely late afternoon and into the evening hours on Thursday. So I'm going to show you some potential amounts here. Check back tomorrow because we're still 2 days out. This is subject to change. But at the moment, heaviest snowfall looking to be up west where cooler air will persist. So you'll see less mixing with ice pellets, potential for some freezing rain for areas further east, but 10 to as much as 20 centimeters possible there. And I'm saying 5 to 15 for the rest of the island. And that 5 will be areas likely down east. You get closer to the 10 to maybe amounts near 15 centimeters, though, the further north and west you head. And this is because we're going to see Thursday night into Friday morning some mixing with ice pellets, even some freezing rain, and eventually even some rain showers possible in some areas. So that'll keep the totals down, but will likely leave roads a little bit messy Thursday night through Friday morning. Luckily, Friday is a PD day anyway with the public schools branch, so the kids are not in class anyway. At the moment, as expected, that rainy system staying to our east, we are looking at a bit of cloud cover, and with the warmer temperatures today, we've had a lot of melting, so there is a lot of moisture that has made its way into the atmosphere, and that means with fairly calm winds through the late evening, overnight, even into early tomorrow morning, there is the chance we could see some fog set up. So be mindful of that for any driving tonight or early tomorrow morning. Otherwise, temperatures up around the freezing mark again tomorrow afternoon. That mess, that special weather statement, not for your Wednesday, but for your Thursday, and I'll have more details on the timing of that system just ahead with your full forecast.
All right, thanks, Jay. Well, people in parts of the UPI campus have to boil their water tonight. There was a water main break early yesterday morning, and hundreds of students are affected by this. Jessica Doria-Brown joins us now live tonight with more of the details. So, Jessica, what happened here?
Well, Louise, the water main break occurred in the area right in front of the dining hall in the early hours of yesterday morning. Now, we got some video from a student. You can see the water there burbling and flowing. Officials with the university say they were on site by dawn yesterday morning, digging at that site, trying to identify the source of the leak. And by about 10 o'clock in the morning, they had to completely shut water off at 7 university buildings. So 3 of those were residences, and that also included the dining hall.
Once it was a complete shutdown, water was purchased, hand washing stations were purchased, and then once the water came back on and the boil order is put in place, they follow the necessary precautions to ensure that everything is being sanitized properly.
And Louise, during the shutdown, students who live in those 3 residence buildings had to actually leave the building to use the washroom or shower, and that lasted for about 9 hours yesterday.
And I understand, Jessica, the daycare on campus was also impacted by all of this. What can you tell us about that?
They did open yesterday morning, kind of hoping for the best, despite the low water pressure they were experiencing because of the water main break. But they did have to close at 10 when the water was completely shut off. I was at the daycare earlier today and spoke to a staff member there about what it was like yesterday morning. Have a listen.
So when we got in, we had barely any water at all, and we were informed that they were going to turn the water off for 10 o'clock. At that point, we had to make the decision to close the daycare center because with 45 children, if you can't use the sinks or the toilets or drink water, it was just an untenable situation, so we just had to close.
And here's what it looked like at the daycare today. They did open, the children were being served bottled water, and everybody at the daycare was washing their hands with water that had been boiled.
About campus, what do things look like on campus now?
Well, the water main break has been repaired, and water is now running on through those 7 buildings, so students and staff can use the running water, they can shower, but the boil water order remains in effect, so bottled water is still being provided. Samples of the water have been sent to the provincial lab for testing, and that boil water order is going to remain in effect now until those results come back and confirm that that water is safe to consume.
All right, thanks so much for the update, Jessica. That's our Jessica Doria Brown reporting live for us tonight in Charlottetown.
Dear Mainlanders, we've saved you a seat.
Tourism PEI unveiled some of its 2020 marketing campaign today. This year, it's focused on attracting visitors, well, from Alberta. Alberta residents will see commercials like this one on TV and online promoting PEI. The campaign hopes to capitalize on new direct flights between Calgary and Charlottetown. Those new flights begin in June.
So it's very important for us to support what the wonderful work that the airport is doing and ensure that we put some marketing efforts behind there to help keep those flights coming in. So it's wonderful to see new flights and in a market that we traditionally have not been in.
Tourism PEI is also stepping up its campaign in Hamilton, Ontario, as a result of a direct flight between that city and the island. But Glance says they are not pulling back on their traditional markets either. Those markets include Ontario, Quebec, and the other maritime provinces. Tourism PEI spends about $4 million annually on marketing. Maritime Electric customers in the Brookvale area are at a public meeting this evening. The company is proposing a new transmission line that it says will improve service. It will take years to finish and cost millions of dollars as well. Nicole Williams has the details.
These are the plans for a new substation and transmission line. The company says all too often when the power goes out in the Brookvale area, thousands of customers are affected, and it's looking to change that.
What we're finding is we do have issues with reliability in that area, and we do want to improve that for our customers. And we also need to be building for the future. I mean, that's an important thing to think about.
That's why the company is proposing a new substation in Clyde River near the New Haven roundabout. It would be built on what is right now provincially owned land. The line would then be installed on poles along public roads starting at Clyde River going west. That includes the Bannockburn Road, up Riverdale Road, across Route 13, and ending around Maple Plains. That's the route the company says it prefers, but they say depending on feedback, the transmission line can also be built along Route 225.
Well, I think the biggest concern is, where is it going to be? Is it in my backyard? Is it in my front yard? Is it going? We've had some people that said, oh, this might go over the top of my house. And, that's not the case at all. It is in the public right of way. And I think that was probably the biggest thing we'll know for next time to actually, maybe write that on the map as well. So that was something that people were asking us about.
Maritime Electric says the power line might be close to some people's homes depending on the area. Now, it's all expected to cost nearly $12.5 million, and it could take up to 3 years to complete. Anyone who couldn't make tonight's meeting is invited to get in touch. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Charlottetown.
The mayor of Charlottetown wants to change the welcome sign near the Hillsborough Bridge. It says birthplace of Confederation and has the year 1765 on it. That is the year Charlottetown was established, not the year of Confederation. So Philip Brown says that is confusing. He wants to remove the number. Right now, he wants to hear from anyone opposing the change before it actually goes ahead. A goalie with the Charlottetown Islanders is hoping to make history this week in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Matthew Welsh has about 50 minutes of game time left before setting the record for most minutes played by a goalie in the league. Welsh joined the Islanders when he was just 16. He's now in his final and 5th season with the team, and he says he has worked hard to play as many games as possible over his career in the Quebec League.
I think for me is a lot about my off-ice training in the summer and just getting in the best shape I can to, be able to play a lot of games during a year and, not get injured and not break down. And that being said, our coach Jim has given me so much opportunity here in Charlottetown to play, and he's relied on me night in and night out, and I've just had a lot of opportunity to play.
The Islanders play the Cape Breton Eagles on Friday in Charlottetown, and if all goes as planned, that is when Welsh is set to set the new record. We should all go out and cheer him on, I think. Much more still to come on Compass tonight before 7 o'clock, including PEI is piloting an updated sexual health education curriculum. We'll tell you what it includes ahead. There are growing concerns about the coronavirus, which has now infected more than 80,000 people around the world. And a group of Harvey Weinstein accusers known as the Silence Breakers react to the verdict in his case yesterday. Those stories and much more still to come on Compass, including Weather with Jay as we take a little peek. A little lighter out there tonight. Outside live, that's a live look outside the studios this evening. Jay's back with weather after this. Another mild day today for the island. It was, it was quite pleasant actually.
Winter done. No, I'm kidding. I see. That's what I've been asked a lot.
You just jinxed it.
I did. Well, I know it's not done. I was being very sarcastic.
Inside information. There is a special weather statement out for the island for all 3 counties, and Could be in for a messy Thursday evening, but like you said, there's already a day off school for the public
Yeah, so it's
school
not going to, it's going to mitigate a lot of the real inconvenience here. But let's keep in mind that on PEI, I think it was June of 2018, we had 2 centimeters of snow in June.
Why?
There really is no spring in PEI. You kind of go from winter to like a brief almost spring light, then back to winter, and then it's like spring light or winter light, and then it's summer. Then it's beach days.
He's ignoring my Sprinter comment.
Sprinter, I like Sprinter. Yeah.
That sounds okay.
That's
All right.
what you come up with it.
Oh.
She's not going to claim it. All right, let's take a look at your tower cam shot into Charlottetown. We don't really have spring here. We have a Sprinter. We have Sprinter. We don't have spring. We have a lovely fall. I'm not trying to knock our spring here, but it kind of just goes right into summer, the winter months. All right, let's take a look now at our temperatures across PEI. This is not bad, or across the Maritimes, I should say. Today, not a bad little mild spell for the last few days. We have our Backyard Rinks series kicking off on Friday. I've been very concerned about that becoming a backyard pool series. We do have some cooler temperatures on the way, and that is not a bad thing. We do like winter. We like getting out and enjoying the cooler temperatures and the snow. It's just going to be a little bit of a mess Thursday night into Friday morning with not just some wet snow accumulating on the roads, but we have some ice pellets and the possibility of a bit of freezing rain as well. It's a good thing that the PD day was already booked for Friday. All right, there's a look at temperatures this hour across the island between 0 and +1 this hour. Those winds pretty light. Coming in off the Gulf in most areas, but when the winds are that light, they can be variable at times, and we will watch for light north to northeast winds through the overnight hours tonight. We did see temperatures up above the freezing mark today. Not a lot of sunshine, but we did see some melting. The roads are pretty wet. That means we've got a lot of moisture heading up into the atmosphere. So as the temperature drops, it's not just ice patches to be concerned about, but fog patches as well. As that temperature starts to fall, we'll likely see some fog developing in areas, and that could linger into the morning hours tomorrow. So some patchy fog tonight, and for that early morning commute as well. As for what's ahead for Thursday and why we have that special weather statement, this system stayed to our east, just brought us some cloud cover today and some light northerly winds. Our next system, though, not for tomorrow. We'll see some fog maybe setting up in the morning, a few passing clouds through the afternoon, and then really not bad conditions. As we roll this into Thursday, overcast to start the day. Timing will likely change. Amounts still subject to change as well, but looking to be late afternoon, early evening. That wet snow starts to fall across the island, and then as we get Thursday night, we start to see that mixing over central and eastern areas with some ice pellets, some freezing rain, and even some actual rain overnight into Friday morning before it starts to taper off. Not huge amounts. Generally, most areas, 5 to 15 centimeters. Up west could see amounts near 20 possible. Partly cloudy tonight, but there is the risk of fog setting up across the island. It could linger into tomorrow morning, and a mix of sun and cloud to variable cloud or some cloudy periods through the afternoon tomorrow. Temperatures up at or above seasonal, so not as mild as today, but still fairly mild for this time of year. Similar story for central and eastern PEI. Milder than normal temperatures through the overnight hours tonight, with the risk of some fog patches settling in. After that fog does clear, we'll see a mix of sun and cloud into the afternoon. I kind of skipped past that, so let's show you again. As we get into tomorrow afternoon, a mix of sun and cloud, temperatures between 0 and +1 for most areas. There's a look at the next 3 days. Temperatures around the goose egg, but Thursday night into Friday morning, we may see temperatures as warm late Thursday evening at +1, +2, which is why there will be some mixing into Friday morning, Thursday night into Friday morning, as well as strong easterly winds. As we get into the weekend and early next week, though, those temperatures back at or below that seasonal average. Here's a quick look at your national temperatures now across the country, your national temperature map, and our photo of the day. Barb White sending this one in of a frosty morning. We haven't seen too many of those as of late, but there's a frosty morning in St. Nicholas. Thank you so much for that photo, Barb. Gorgeous shot there. If you want to get us your photos, compass@cbc.ca. Easiest way to do that. Always share them through social media as well, and to our website for all the details.
Thank you very much, Jay. Coming up inside these PEI school walls, teachers from grades 1 to 3 and 7 to 9 are piloting a new sexual health curriculum this year. The province says the new curriculum updates what students are learning, especially in the age of social media. So we'll find out exactly what that entails ahead on Compass.
I'm Mitch Cormier. Wednesday on Island Morning, island photographer Patricia Bork will tell us about spending time at the Banff Centre. She recently took part in an intensive training course with other Indigenous artists from across North America. She'll tell us what it means for the future of her work on the next Island Morning.
PEI is piloting a new sexual health curriculum this year in grades 1 to 3 and 7 to 9. Now, this update partly reflects what students are learning in the age of social media. Maribeth Rogers-Neal is the health curriculum leader with the Department of Education. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with what you see as the biggest change in this.
So the big changes are around our approach to teaching and learning, and we know more around health topics that we need to teach our learners skills that they need to make healthy choices. And some of the topics they're learning about, we've worked hard to update the technology piece.
Right.
And to us LGBTQ+ and emerging identities. And also the consent piece. So among other things, those are probably the major updates that we've made from the old curriculum to the new curriculum.
I mean, so much of the language has changed that kids use, right? That must be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is definitely a literacy piece all around. There's a lot of awareness nowadays, and we want to make sure that with the awareness that our students have, that they have understanding and knowledge and skills to be healthy.
And of course, getting the right information, because in the age of technology, social media, the internet, Google, everything's at their fingertips. So how has that changed the way you're teaching this?
Yeah, and I've been able to be in classes where this is being piloted, and there are a few really obvious things. And one is that students are really engaged in this topic. It's very important to them when we talk about their health. And the other is they're coming with a lot of information.
Yeah. And maybe not the right information.
Well, sometimes I think it's twofold. You know, I think that parents have access to more information, so we are seeing our learners come having already had those discussions at home, so that's a really positive piece. But then there is the accessibility, and with the widespread adoption of social media and the way we communicate and certain apps that are out there, we really want to be able to help our learners navigate that and think critically about all this information they're consuming and make healthy choices, but also think about how their life in their online spaces impacts their health and well-being.
Maybe that's even opened a conversation with parents, maybe less stigma, less embarrassing to talk about sex with your parents because it's out there and it's being talked about.
Yeah, it is. You know, certainly I think of my time and growing up and learning, and my parents did well to educate me, but there's certainly more out there to help parents navigate those conversations, and we're seeing that more in the classroom, and we're seeing all kinds of things. Some are still not really having that discussion at home as well. So,
now, are kids learning things at an earlier age now in this new curriculum? So if you can point me to any specifics.
Yeah, so I would say they're learning skills earlier. So the skills we know that are associated with topics like consent. So we can teach at a very early age what consent is and why it's important. And we wouldn't do that in the context of sexual activity, but we can teach them negotiation skills and refusal skills, and we could do it by practicing with a pencil, borrowing a pencil, and how do we build that skill set so that when it is developmentally appropriate to introduce those topics like sexual health or drugs and alcohol, that they've brought along this skill set around topics like consent or healthy relationships or building empathy. So I would say earlier we're making sure that we get those skills. Topic-wise, they're being applied where it's developmentally appropriate.
What more in sort of grades 7 to 9 would you see as sort of a change there, a specific change?
I think the technology piece, again, will be one of them. And 7 has a focus on peer-to-peer relationships. There's a focus on healthy relationships all through it. We have presentations updated around gender identity and sexual orientation for that age group. And then when we get into grades 9, we're talking about, sexually transmitted and bloodborne infections and how to prevent and how to have safer sex. And we talk about consent as it applies to sexual activity, for example. That's when that would come in.
And the curriculum will be piloted next year for grades 4 to 6, right?
Yeah, so we're piloting 7 to 9 now. 4 to 6 is in development, and we're looking to roll the pilot out in the fall of 2020.
And so through all of this, and this pilot with 1 to 3 and 7 to 9, you'd like feedback from the teachers, students. You need to get feedback.
Absolutely, and that's why it's a critical phase of curriculum development. We want to have a smaller sample of schools work through the outcomes and work through the learning and have that feedback from students and teachers, principals and families. It's important.
I appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
The PEI Humane Society is hoping to top last year's successful Cupcake and Bake Day. Day will let you know how you can help out by hosting your own bake sale. That's coming up on Compass. Welcome back. It has been a hard winter in Newfoundland. Blizzards have dropped record-setting amounts of snow on parts of the province. Airports were shut down, roads were closed, and people were virtually trapped in their homes for a period of time. But there is a bit of a silver lining to all this. As Garrett Barry shows us, this is a banner season for one particular group of people.
It's what a rider dreams of.
Beautiful, sunshine, a little bit not too cold. It's nice.
And a lot of snow on the ground.
And a lot of snow on the ground.
Call it white gold, this powdery snow. It seems like everyone's traveling to get a piece.
Well, the trails down here is a lot better than up home, and we don't get much snow up there. We get a lot more snow down here.
We've been coming out, this is 3 weekends now, so we came out to Port Blandford a few times, and this one we've been looking forward to for a long time.
They're even celebrating in St. John's, a relief after last year.
You only got to drive a couple of minutes out on Cochrane Pond Road and drop off your machine, and you can go for days.
The secret of these trails are the warm-up shacks, where everyone gets together.
Get a break from out in the cold, and you go in and everyone's gathering around the wood stove and just, you know, shooting the breeze and having a laugh and, you know, sharing a few snacks and whatever.
All these machines are worth thousands and thousands. A new snowmobile will run you about $15,000, and good snow means good business.
If we have a snowstorm, we a half a day for some people to get dug out and cleaned up, and then we'll usually see them coming in, you know, looking for the snowblower or, you know, parts for their snowmobile or a new snowmobile, hopefully.
Almost 250 centimeters since December 1st. That's a lot of snowfalls. That's a lot of sales.
You could see probably a 15% increase so far in the winter season, which is a small part of our business, but still good to see. The last couple seasons have not been quite as good, so it's nice to have that once in a while.
The sticker shock is a little easier to manage on days like these.
Makes it worth having them. Other years you say, oh, all that money, not really finally getting to use it. No, this year's been fantastic.
If you take a look at what they find, you'll start to understand why they come out again and again. Garrett Berry, CBC News, Gander.
Well, there's a very special day coming up for the PEI Humane Society, a day to bake cupcakes and other goodies and donate the proceeds to the shelter. And Jay found out how the Cupcake and Bake Day works earlier today.
We always love when the PEI Humane Society stops by because we get to meet adorable four-legged friends like Prada, and I get to branch out and expand my wardrobe choices to include, I'm a cupcake, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I have to quickly come over.
Forgot to put the cherry on top, though. But
That's okay. There's a lot of work that goes into this hair, so I do appreciate that. All right, I'm just going to give Prada a quick little hello here. Oh, Prada, how are you doing? I don't know why I'm holding the microphone to Prada. It's not like I can really ask her the questions, Jennifer. All right, so tell me about this this Cupcake and Bake Day, because we're asking folks, for those who maybe have been sticking with their New Year's resolutions, to maybe put a pause on a few of those resolutions this year. You like that? Pausing the diet plan? Pause? All right, I'm not that clever.
Yeah, pause for a sweet treat, we say, on March 9th.
This is a big fundraiser. Not to set the bar insanely high, but how much did this day raise last year?
$35,000.
$35,000. So for folks that maybe didn't take part last year or missed when you were in last year to talk about this event, explain to me how the Cupcake and Bake Day works for the Humane Society.
So it's an easy event that anybody can get involved with at your school, your office place, with friends and family. Really, it's all about setting up a treat day, putting a jar for donations or collecting donations. You could even do it online. And you could bake any kind of treats you want. Cupcakes, a lot of people like the cupcakes, but you can do squares, brownies, dog cookies, beer and cheese, whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do, as long as money ends up going into the cup or the pot to help raise money. $35,000 last year for the Humane Society. And is there an overall part of a goal that this will be a part of this particular fundraiser?
We really want to raise $40,000 this year. We've had a really busy year, and we need that to go straight to our animal care and operation budget. So we really do need those funds this year. So we're hoping that everybody participates.
Prada is very lucky to have just been adopted, but there's a lot of other animals that need care and need to be adopted as well. So if I wanted to take part at my workplace, and a lot of companies are even doing challenges and office matches with this, matching the dollars being raised, where would I find out all of that information?
Just go to PEIHumaneSociety.com or give us a call.
There you have it. So PEIHumaneSociety.com. Full details for the Cupcake and Bake Day. Put a pause on those diet plans, at least for one day. Enjoy a sweet treat and help out some furry four-legged friends like our friend Prada here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Prada. So pause for a good treat, a sweet treat. If you'd like to be in our community segment, get in touch with us here at CBC PEI. You can call us at 629-6480 or email us compass@cbc.ca. Protests in support of Wet'suwet'en resistance to outside development on their traditional lands in BC popped up across the country today. The Wet'suwet'en people are themselves divided about the planned construction of a natural gas pipeline in their homeland. But the unbending opposition of some hereditary chiefs has fueled solidarity demonstrations, leaving roads blocked, trains stalled, and increasingly dividing Canadians.
It's a pretty minor inconvenience if you consider it in the context of Indigenous people and the Wet'suwet'en people.
Protest somewhere else. We're not the ones you're supposed to be protesting against.
Here's the latest. CN has been granted a court injunction against the protesters on the tracks 60 kilometres southwest of Toronto. Police are there but have not taken action to enforce that injunction. Some demonstrators near the train tracks, 210 kilometres east of Toronto, were arrested yesterday, and one of their 2 encampments was removed. But after trains started to roll again, the protesters came back despite a still valid injunction. Mohawks and some Mi'kmaq in other parts of Ontario and Quebec also blocked roads or disrupted rail service in solidarity with those arrested elsewhere in the protests. But police moved in on a rail blockade near Sherbrooke, Quebec, to enforce a court injunction there. Police also moved in on protesters in Vancouver who had blocked an intersection near a gate to the port, making arrests there as well. So these ongoing rail disruptions have brought Canada's agriculture sector to a troubling tipping point, according to grain growers as well as pork and chicken farmers. They say their reliability as producers depends on those train shipments to port and back to farms with fuels and feed needed to keep their own livestock healthy. They're calling on the federal government to end the uncertainty. PEI's Mary Robinson is the president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture.
We have nothing to do with this dispute. The widespread collateral damage of these protests is grinding our entire industry to a halt and is taking a massive toll on farmers across the country.
Robinson says the toll in terms of farmers' mental health and financial insecurity is high. She says grain farmers alone are losing $63 million a week because of contract penalties and new delayed shipment fees. She says with the transportation system frozen, Canada is also approaching an animal welfare crisis as farmers run short of supplies to heat barns and feed their livestock. More countries beyond Asia are seeing new cases of the coronavirus, even as China reports a slowdown amid the dangerous outbreak.
It's one of these scenarios which we have been warning against for a couple of weeks already, that countries have to be prepared for the virus literally knocking at their door.
In Europe, Switzerland, Austria, and Croatia today confirmed their first cases of COVID-19, but South Korea and Italy have seen the biggest spike in infections outside mainland China. They are now nearly 1,000 cases in South Korea, where the disease has killed 11 people. Italy also reported 11 deaths, and it saw a sharp jump of 100 new infections since yesterday, bringing its total confirmed cases to 322. Now, most of the outbreak from the coronavirus is clustered around northern Italy, where authorities have quarantined several towns and restricted movement to contain it. CBC's Renee Filipponi reports from one of the many roadblocks southeast of Milan.
This is one of 35 police roadblocks across the region, checking cars coming in and out of what is the red zone. This is the area that's been under quarantine. There are 50,000 people in nearly a dozen communities that are not able to leave because of the high number of people who have come down with the coronavirus. It's unclear at this point how long these people will be in lockdown, but there are some supplies getting through to them. The scenes inside the red zone show streets that are empty. People are staying inside. There's a lot of fear. People don't know how bad the disease could get or how long this lockdown will last.
Well, this was the last thing Italy needed. The country was already teetering on the edge of recession. It's hurting hotel bookings, it's hurting retailing. There have been an awful lot of cancellations already in the northern regions where this happened.
Officials with the World Health Organization are now on the ground trying to figure out why Italy has been hit so hard with the virus. In order to do that, they need to figure out who patient 0 is, who brought the virus to Italy. Once they can figure that out, they can get a better sense of how it spread and possibly come up with another method to contain it that isn't so drastic.
One of the reasons why there's a team at this point already quickly dispatched to meet with the authorities is to look at the best way to prepare for any further spread, or of course to contain what we have right now.
Now, there is a concern that the virus could begin to spread outside the borders of Italy. There are other countries that already have reports and confirmed viruses. The EU has been clear there will be no border checks, but the countries will have to work together to come up with a way to contain it. The Prime Minister came out today saying that it is still a safe place to travel to, but UK authorities are warning British citizens that if they are visiting this area of Italy and return to England with any flu-like symptoms, they're supposed to put themselves in self-quarantine for 14 days. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Somalia, Italy.
Former Hollywood movie mogul Harvey Weinstein was supposed to head to jail yesterday after he was convicted of rape and sexual assault. Instead, he was taken to hospital. The ambulance transporting Weinstein to Rikers Island Jail was diverted after he experienced heart palpitations and high blood pressure. He spent the night in the prison ward at New York's Bellevue Hospital, where he remains. But today, some of the more than 100 women who have accused him of harassment, rape, and assault held a news conference in Los Angeles. CBC's Stephen D'Souza has more.
When Harvey Weinstein was convicted yesterday in a New York courtroom of a criminal sexual act and rape in the third degree, it was a moment that many of his accusers never thought that they would see. There are, of course, more than 80, up to 100 women who have accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual misconduct, but many of them have never seen their charges go to trial because of statutes of limitations or for other reasons. So a group of them gathered today in Los Angeles to offer their thoughts, and they say, while this is a moment they never thought would happen, it's also a watershed moment for their movement.
This verdict should serve as an example so that all survivors will be heard and believed, and so that all predators will be served justice.
We may never know how many women have been assaulted by Harvey Weinstein and other predators of his kind, but I want yesterday's verdict to be a beacon of hope for all those intent on sharing their truth, as well as those that may doubt their power to come forward.
Weinstein is facing anywhere from 5 to up to 25 years in prison, and many of the women who spoke today hope that this is a new day, that this shows that the justice system is shifting to align more with society's evolving views on what's tolerated when it comes to sexual misconduct.
This was never about Harvey. This was about what we, as a society, will tolerate. And I, for one, am glad that the message is clear. Hurt other people, and there will be consequences. Your power and money will not protect you.
The women who spoke today admit that there is still a long way to go, that the justice system, as it's set up now, re-traumatizes women, making them relive what happened to them when they speak with police, with lawyers, and when they go through a trial. But for each woman who spoke today, they say that the verdict was incredibly personal for each of them.
In my mind, I am no longer trapped in a hotel room with Harvey Weinstein forever, because I am here now with all these fierce women after his rape conviction, standing here reflecting on the irony that he will be the one who now feels the fear of being trapped.
Today's news conference took place in Los Angeles, where Harvey Weinstein is also facing charges for alleged attacks against 2 women. Meanwhile, here in New York, Harvey Weinstein will be back in court on March 11th for sentencing, and his lawyers have said they will appeal. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
The hopefuls for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination are squaring off in another debate tonight. This time it is in South Carolina, ahead of this weekend's primary in that state. The current frontrunner, Bernie Sanders, is bracing for sharp attacks from his opponents. CBC's Katie Simpson has the details for us tonight from Washington.
Senator Bernie Sanders is going to be taking cover on stage tonight as he will be attacked from all sides. After wins in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada, his competitors are going to try to do everything they can to slow, if not end, his momentum. The attacks have already started with fresh criticism of his voting record on gun control bills, which his opponents say is not strong enough. And he'll be hit for comments he made during an interview on 60 Minutes this past Sunday when he defended aspects of Fidel Castro's regime. Comments that are not going over very well in the important state of Florida, where there is a large Cuban population.
He initiated a major literacy program, and they help people learn to read and write. You know what? I think teaching people to read and write is a good thing.
The candidate with the most to lose tonight, though, and this week, is former Vice President Joe Biden. He desperately needs a standout moment in this debate ahead of Saturday's primary in South Carolina. He's been unable to shake off his sluggish start to this nomination race, and if he doesn't put up a win, there's little chance he can recover before the Super Tuesday contest a few days later.
We're walking around as Democrats with our heads down like, woe is me, what are we going to do? This is the United States of America. There's not a damn thing we've been unable to do once we set our mind to it.
Biden and his team have repeatedly said this is going to be the state where he will finally see a surge of support, and that is because it's a diverse place. In his years as a lawmaker and as vice president, Biden has built significant ties with the African American community, and about 60% of the Democrats expected to vote on Saturday are African American. If Biden is going to maintain credibility as a candidate, he is going to need to have evidence that he can actually galvanize voters. And without something big on Saturday, so far, there's no evidence he can point to at this stage in the race. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Well, it is another big day of celebration and honors for Zamboni driver turned hockey hero David Ayres. On Saturday, he subbed in as an emergency goalie. Many of you might have seen that, and helped the Carolina Hurricanes defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs. And since then, it really has been non-stop interviews and TV appearances for the 42-year-old from Whitby, Ontario.
We've got a great show for you tonight, and ow! Oh, God, I pulled my hamstring. I don't think I can finish the monologue. Oh, no.
Don't worry, Steven. I got you.
Zamboni hockey heroes, David Ayres, everybody.
Ayres showed up on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert last night. Today, he's in Raleigh, North Carolina, home of the Hurricanes, where the mayor has declared it David Ayres Day. Both Ayres and his wife met with local media for a friendly news conference. He'll be at the game tonight, the Hurricanes game tonight, as they host the Dallas Stars, and he'll actually be sounding the goal siren. Pretty remarkable. All right, not a remarkable day if you're an investor. So the Canadian dollar trading on average 75.30 cents US. That is the worst day in 4.5 years for the TSX, off by 385 points. The Dow off by 879. Once again, this is mainly based on those fears about the impact, the economic impact of coronavirus as more cases begin to pop up. So we saw the price of oil below $50 US a barrel. That's significant as well. And gold off by $26.60 US an ounce. Okay, take a look at this. How's this for a PEI standoff? This video is from Green Gable Alpacas on Instagram. 2 foxes and the alpacas staring each other down. So I wonder what they're thinking. Maybe this. Hey, man, you see that?
Yeah.
Don't move a muscle.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a fox.
I'm going to go
Stay
over there.
really still.
I'm going to go over there. I'm going to ask. I got to know. What does the fox say? Remember that song?
Meanwhile, the foxes don't seem to give 2 hoots anyway.
Oh, hold on. And scene. Okay,
And,
sorry.
yes,
We were
did you
acting
like that?
there. Yeah.
We were acting. We were acting. I just think I love that video. I just love how they're like, and then nothing. But anyway, thanks for letting us use that video from Instagram. So
2 beautiful looking groups of animals there.
Absolutely.
That was great. All right, let's take a look at
I
your
had
day
fun.
planner forecast. What does the fox say? All right, starting out, I'm going to be YouTubing that song after the show. -4 to start the day tomorrow. Some fog might linger through the overnight hours tonight into tomorrow morning. Then a mix of sun and cloud and temperatures up around the freezing mark. The real mess holds off until Thursday night.
All right, what does the fox say? All right, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Good night, PEI.